Hi everyone. No start screen today because I got distracted and didn't realize it was already time to start. So we're just going right into you guys being here with me. But we're still gonna wait for some of you to trickle in cuz the beginning is usually just me talking with myself a little bit while I wait for you guys anyway. Today, we're going to be reading some more stories. And I have one that I found that, I don't know, it's a pasta of the month. So I'm hoping that it'll be good, but I don't know, it could be really bad. Hi, Beans. It's good to see you. How has your day been? I hope well, and I hope you're well rested. Let me adjust a little bit. Oh my gosh, I was muted in game. Can't see my mouth moving when that happens. It's been good. That's good to hear. Mine has been pretty good as well. I didn't really do a whole lot. I went to work in the morning, but I was pretty lazy today. I kind of just did. I don't know. I was just kind of lazy. I did finish getting, I finished getting our, oh no, I'm falling in the chair. Please forgive me. I finished getting our Discord server set up, so that is available to join now. You can find the link down in the About Me section where it has all the social links. It is still in a very rough state. Oh my gosh, my roommate's vacuuming outside, so I hope it's not too bothersome for you, but it shouldn't last too long. Oh my gosh, everyone's joining. Hi, Sawi. Hi, Donzi. It's good to see you. We don't get to see you in here as often. How have all of your days been? Derpy. Sorry, I was too busy fishing. Yeah, Drambeak was having a lot of fun in the Astral pond too. I tried it a little bit just to see how it works. And yeah, I might get a little addicted to it too when I'm just bored. Busy as heck, but productive. That's good. Yeah, it's always very satisfying to get a lot of that work done. I hope it's been busy in a good way though, and you're not burning yourself out. Donzi, sorry, work has been the big. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, and no pressure to ever feel obligated to hop in here and watch. Like, obviously, I enjoy seeing y'all whenever you do hop in, but real life comes first. So make sure y'all take care of yourselves. Derpy. Oh, just saying hi to Beans. But yeah. The Discord is available if you want to join it. It doesn't really have a whole lot to offer right now. It's mostly just if you want to have a place to interact with the other followers outside of stream. And I'll also try to post announcements there as well. And in theory, I should be better about it than I am with Twitter because I'm already on Discord. Twitter, I have to go out of my way to do anything with. Beans, oh no, you screwed up. I don't know. Do you ever not have your sleep schedule screwed up, Beans? It seems like that's just kind of your normal at this point. Never-ending suffering. It seems that way. Are you doing all right today as far as sleep? So today, our first story at least, because I don't think it's going to take up the entire time. Oh yeah, fishing is active today as well, so you guys can feel free to fish if you want. But today's story that we're going to start with is called... Oh, wait, where's the author? My Roommate is Into Some Weird Fairy Shit. That's the name of the story. And it is by... I went too far. I scrolled too far. It is by Sleepy Hollow 101. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh. Beans, I'm sorry. I didn't start the game. Here, let me get that. And Derpy, can you refund those points? I'm honestly not sure how to do it. Can't believe I forgot to start the fishing. What a streamer I am. Alright. Here we are. I'll just move that screen out of the way. Oh, come on. So, an annoying thing in VR is that whenever I start a game while I'm in VR, it pulls up this big, huge screen that I can't seem to get rid of. I'm sure there's a way, but I just haven't figured it out yet. Alright. Oh no, it says the invite link is expired. Okay, I'll get it figured out and after stream or maybe tomorrow, and I'll get it all worked out. I'm not good with all that computer stuff, so don't worry, Beans, we'll get it sorted. Derpy, you woke up early to go to a seller's house to finally get a washer dryer. Installed the washer, realized that the house needs something installed for the dryer works. Hedge clipped the backyard to use the clothesline in the meantime. Oh my gosh, you did have a busy day, Derpy. I hope you get the washer dryer all squared away sooner rather than later. It's midnight now. But now the fishing has started, so it should be really active. I'm sorry about that, Beans. And I'm sorry about the Discord link not working. I'll have to figure out how to do, how to copy the link so that it is always active. But we'll get it all sorted. We'll figure it out. Anyway, I think it's time for us to... Oh no! It's running away. Darn screen. Uh-oh. It's gonna be stubborn. There we go. We're getting all of our scuff out of the way at the beginning so that we can have a nice chill story. Alright, here we go. Sleepy Hollow 101's story. My roommate is into some weird fairy shit. And these aren't cute little human dragonflies with flower petals for clothes and sweet smiles. I don't know about you guys, but when I think of fairies, I'm picturing something like Tinkerbell. Yeah, I know she's technically a pixie, sue me. That is not the shit my roommate is fucking with. I noticed she was weird when I moved in. She was advertising for a roommate on Craigslist, and she said she'd need someone who was open-minded, who was all right with strange people coming and going at all hours, who wouldn't ask questions about things that didn't involve them, and also who would be okay with sharing a bathroom. Yeah, okay, not ideal. But I didn't need ideal. I needed livable. And honestly, I didn't really give a shit what she did in her spare time. Hell, she could have been cooking meth in her room. As long as she didn't get me involved in her drug deals, I wouldn't have given a shit. Oh, Derpy. So yeah, nice reading stream is much appreciated right now. I'm glad. Yeah. I hope you can wind down a little bit and, just relax. Turns out she wasn't dealing drugs, unless she was sharing marijuana with her deadbeat friends or something. Instead, she was into the occult. Supernatural stuff, conspiracy theories. She believes in anything and everything. She's convinced she's seen Bigfoot. She was abducted by aliens when she was 10 years old. She doesn't get vaccines because the government is using them to control people's minds. That kind of stuff. Is it terrible for me to say that I kind of like her? I mean, let's make no mistake here. She's fucked in the head. But she's actually a really good roommate. Pays her bills on time, cleans up after herself, asks me before having her weird gatherings and rituals and shit. Whenever she buys groceries, she grabs my favorite candy bar for me. And at least she's interesting. I'd rather sit and talk to her for an hour than listen to Nancy from work describe her latest MLM adventures. I'm gonna take a quick drink of water real quick. Wasn't stressful, just hectic and tiring. Yeah, sometimes that's the case, like, especially once you start doing the thing you're supposed to be doing, I usually find that it's not particularly stressful. It's just kind of, exhausting. Hi, Brayden. How are you doing? Listening to Astral talk while video editing makes you way too sleepy. Oh no. No fair, you cheeky cat lady. It's not my fault. It's just the gifts I was given, I guess. Today you found a bloody tissue. Ew, that's really gross, Beans. I'm sorry you found that. And before you argue with me, Stella, that's the name my roommate chose for herself, I guess, doesn't vote. So it's not like her weird-ass opinions and beliefs hurt anyone else. She told me once that she thinks that if you enter a voting booth, the government will put you to sleep, embed your skin with a mind-reading chip, and release you back into society, and you won't have any memory of what happened, and that it happened to her mom, and that's why her mom believes in evolution. Right. Anyway, so life with Stella wasn't terrible. We got along okay for the most part, and we managed to live together for 6 months before her weirdness started getting a little too close for comfort. What do I mean by that? Well, one morning I woke up to mold growing in a ring in our living room. Seriously, it was a huge-ass ring. Our living room is actually pretty sizable, especially since Stella doesn't believe in furniture, so it's practically empty except for her weird candles everywhere. It never bothered me. since I don't use the common spaces much anyway. But mold growing in my apartment was definitely not okay. Brayden, someone opened up a... Oh my gosh. Yeah, mold, right beans, that's pretty disgusting. Stella, what the hell is this? I asked. Stella was sitting at the edge of it, a mountain of books next to her. I saw a few titles straight away. Myths of the Fae Folk, Fairies and Other Creatures, The Magical Arts. In her hands was a book on botany, which was extremely peculiar in the moment, but not so much in hindsight. It's a fairy ring. At least it will be, she said, a small frown on her petite lips as she pored over her book. I bit back the urge to scream. I don't know what a fairy ring is, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't belong in our fucking living room. If you don't get it out of here, so help me God. Stella sighed and put her book down. I thought you'd say that, she said, reaching into the black messenger backpack at her side and pulling out a slightly crumpled envelope. She always had that bag on her, and I often saw her pull out any number of weird things from it. So you can understand that I was a little hesitant to take the envelope from her. But I did, and I opened it, and immediately my frayed nerves were soothed. $500 in cash will do that to a person. For the inconvenience, she said, going back to her book without a second glance at me. And if we get in trouble with the landlord, I'll pay for any damages. I knew our landlord wouldn't bother coming around and checking. He didn't give a shit what anyone did in those apartments anyway. So I was more than happy to let it slide, as long as that shit didn't start growing in my room. You're about to go get a flamethrower, Beans. And Derpy, this author likes cursing quite a bit more than... Yeah, I think they're going for like an average early 20-something sort of thing. Is very... Yeah, honestly, Brayden, it feels weird for me to do also. Like, I will never swear outside of narrating a story, so it feels really weird when I have these stories that have excessive swearing. I did wonder where she got all that money, though. Stella was never short on cash, even though she didn't have a job, at least not that I could tell. Well, never look a gift horse in the mouth. I shrugged my shoulders and let it go. That night before I went to bed, I Googled fairy rings. I only read about 5 minutes before I got bored and gave up on it. Do you know how much has been written about these things? Too fucking much. Anyway, I figured out 2 very important things. First, many cultures believe that fairy rings are caused by fairies or pixies dancing in a circle. Second, mortals absolutely should not fuck with them. Now, I wasn't worried. Not only did I not believe in fairies, but I was also pretty sure you couldn't just grow your own fairy ring. I figured that Stella would lose interest in it after a few weeks, like she always did with her random obsessions, and then she'd get rid of it and life would continue as normal. Before that had a chance to happen, however, the fairy ring grew. Beans, Astral, if you give me 2 numbers, 2-digit, by the way, you'll do your workout because you really don't want to invite you. Okay, let's do 12 and 24. Derpy. Never mess with classic Fae. More. Yeah, like, you don't want to mess with anything like that doesn't care about, society and social rules. After a few days, it had sprouted mushrooms. I shit you not, literal mushrooms were growing in my living room. Stella seemed overjoyed with this arrangement. I was pretty grossed out because our room was starting to smell damp and musty and just gross. I really wanted to yank up that carpet and scrub all the nasty crap away, but I focused on the $500 I was getting for being cooperative and tried to will away my annoyance. Stella's excitement grew over the next few days until it spilled over into the conversations that we had. "It's almost ready. They'll be here soon. I can feel it," she said one night when we were having a beer. She was sitting in the middle of the circle while I stayed far outside of it. Not out of superstition, but because I wasn't going near that nasty thing. "Are you sure that's how it works?" I asked. My skepticism must have been obvious because her response was just on this side of indignant. "I've done my research, Janice. It's like that movie. What was it? If you build it, they will come. Just like that. I've made the ring. They won't be able to resist dancing on it. That's just how it works." I wasn't convinced, but hell, why not? It's not real anyway, so who cares how she thinks it works? "So what happens afterwards?" She looked confused. "After what?" "After the fairies show up," I said. "What happens? Do you talk to them, trap them, ask them to grant you a wish? What?" She stared at me in utter bewilderment for a second, and then burst out laughing. "God, Janice, you're so funny sometimes," she said. I chose not to press the point. Instead, I finished my beer and went to bed. Brayden, the amount of out-of-context clips you could make for you from this one VOD alone would make you pass out laughing. Yeah, I bet there's a lot of things that out of context would be pretty amusing. Things had played out how I expected to over the next week or so. Stella was obsessed with her fairy ring. I cycled between ignoring it and indulging her. Eventually, her interest started to wane, and she began to turn her attention to other things. I noticed a few books on the Jersey Devil appearing around the apartment, so I figured that's what would plague my life next. I felt like I was living in some sort of sitcom. And then, 3 weeks ago, something different happened. I woke up around 4 in the morning, my sleep disturbed by a strange blue glow coming from under my door. I stumbled out of bed, rubbing the sleep from my eyes as I went in search of the light source. As soon as I entered the living room, I was almost blinded by the blue light assaulting my eyes. I swore to myself as I shielded my face, trying to let my eyes adjust. Eventually, they did, and I was able to take in the terrible sight that awaited me. Stella, naked, dancing on the fairy ring. Her body twisted and jerked, almost like she was being pulled along. She stumbled but didn't fall, going round and round so quickly it made me dizzy. I started to walk toward her, confused and somewhat unsettled. Was she on acid or something? I almost just went back to my room and pretended I hadn't seen anything. But then blood caught my attention. It oozed from small cuts all over her body. A ring of blood was crusted around her wrists. Slashes across her abdomen resulted in red rivulets tracing paths down her legs. Finally, I saw her face. Her eyes were fixed on me, and a shudder worked its way down my spine. Her face was twisted in agony, her mouth a grimace, her eyes red with tears. Snot was running out of her nose. She was heaving for breath, and I was sure, so sure, I saw her scream. Except there was no sound. Nothing at all. I couldn't hear the sound of cars passing by on the road outside, the sound of her feet on the carpet, the sound of her breathing. It was like I was trapped in a vacuum. But then again, I didn't really need to hear what she was screaming. I could read it on her lips like the words had been printed there. Help me, help me, help me, help me. My body responded to her silent plea, and I lunged at her, hand outstretched, intent on wrenching her from the circle. But just then, she disappeared. Vanished in front of my eyes as though she'd never been there. I tripped and fell to my knees, just outside the ring of glowing blue mushrooms that dotted the floor. Slowly, before my eyes, the glow faded to nothing until I was alone in the dark. Just me, the silence, and the knowledge that Stella was not coming back. I called the police, of course. That's what you do, right? I've never been in a situation quite like that before. I knew I couldn't tell them what I saw, so I just told them that when I woke up, she was gone, and that was rare for her. That I was worried something had happened. They declared her missing. I steered clear of the living room. I wanted to get out of there as fast as humanly possible, so I booked a hotel room until I managed to find another place. I didn't give a shit about breaking the lease or forfeiting the security deposit on the apartment. I just wanted out. I got a place plenty quickly. A real dump of a studio apartment, but it's affordable. I built up my courage to go back to our apartment, to pack up my few things and go. When I opened the door, God, no matter how long I live, I'll never forget this. When I opened the door, she was there, lying there, in the middle of the fairy ring. The cuts had deepened into permanent grooves on her body. She was thinner than before, as though someone had sucked the flesh out of her, tightened her skin until it was tough and leathery. In fact, she almost looked like she'd been mummified. Her eyes were gone, her teeth were gone, her mouth was still gaping open, still screaming for someone, me, to help her. And as I stared at the body, I swear to God, I heard a faint giggle coming from somewhere in the apartment. I think I'm done with roommates for a while. The end. That was kind of a silly ending. I think I'm done with roommates for a while. That, I don't know, that kind of took away from things. But yeah, I ended up liking that a little more than I thought I would. Let me catch up on chat a little bit. I kind of got into it and didn't want to lose the momentum. Let's see. Oh yeah, beans. Definitely don't mess with them. the Fae, they're not gonna. You can never win with Fae. And Stella would never come back. Would have been a great ending. Yeah, I mean, I do like that they had the body show up again. I think they could have built up a little more suspense to it, though. Like, they could have drawn the story out a bit. That's what I would have done anyway. Glad you don't have a picture mind. Ooh, yeah. I always have a very visual mind for things like that. Yeah, I think that could have been a good spot to end at, Beans. Let's see. I don't have a second story in mind, but let's see what sounds good. I'm just in the pasta of the month category, so let's see what sounds good. Oh, hi, Sophia. Haven't seen you in here for a while. It's good to see you. I hope you're having a good day. It's kind of late for you, isn't it? Oh my gosh, yeah, Sophia, I got affiliated a while ago. I wasn't really expecting it. Well, I mean, after a while I was kind of expecting it, but when I started, I wasn't expecting it. Let's see. Ooh, NoEnd House is supposed to be pretty good, actually. I haven't read that in a long time. It's a longer one, though, I think. Actually, no, this doesn't look very long. Alright, you know what? We're gonna read NoEnd House. So this is by, let me get, this is brought by Brian Russell. And again, the title of the story is NoEnd House. Sorry, just catching up on chat a little bit before I start again. Ooh, been playing Lies of P. Yeah, Lies of P looks pretty fun. Yeah, I'm never gonna get rid of that can of beans. I quite enjoy it in my cupboard. Alright, so here's NoEnd House. Let me start by saying that Peter Terry was addicted to heroin. We were friends in college and continued to be after I graduated. Notice that I said I. He dropped out after 2 years of barely cutting it. After I moved out of the dorms and into a small apartment, I didn't see Peter as much. We would talk online every now and then. AIM was king in pre-Facebook years. There was a period where he wasn't online for about 5 weeks straight. I wasn't worried. He was pretty notorious flake and drug addict, so I assumed he just stopped caring. Then, one night, I saw him log on. Before I could initiate a conversation, he sent me a message. David, man, we need to talk. That was when he told me about the NoEnd House. It got that name because no one had ever reached the final exit. The rules were pretty simple and cliche. Reach the final room of the building and you win $500. There were 9 rooms in all. The house was located outside the city, roughly 4 miles from my house. Apparently, Peter had tried and failed. He was a heroin and who knows what the fuck addict. So I figured the drugs got the best of him and he wigged out at a paper ghost or something. He told me it would be too much for anyone, that it was unnatural. I didn't believe him. I told him I would check it out the next night, and no matter how hard he tried to convince me otherwise, $500 sounded too good to be true. I had to go. I set out the following night. I guess $500 is the theme of our stories tonight. He got $500 in the last story too, or she did. When I arrived, I immediately noticed something strange about the building. Have you ever seen or read something that shouldn't be scary, but for some reason a chill just crawls up your spine? I walked towards the building, and the feeling of uneasiness only intensified as I opened the front door. My heart slowed, and I let a relieved sigh leave me as I entered. The room looked like a normal hotel lobby decorated for Halloween. A sign was posted in place of a worker. It read, "Room 1, this way. 8 more follow. Reach the end and you win." I chuckled and made my way to the front door. The first area was almost laughable. The door resembled the Halloween aisle of a Kmart, complete with sheet ghosts and animatronic zombies that gave a static growl when you passed by. At the far end was an exit. It was the only door besides the one I entered through. I brushed through a fake spider web and headed for the second room. I was greeted by fog as I opened the door to room 2. The room definitely upped the ante in terms of technology. Not only was there a fog machine, but a bat hung from the ceiling and flew in a circle. Scary. They seemed to have a Halloween soundtrack that one would find in a 99-cent store on loop somewhere in the room. I didn't see a stereo, but I guess they must have used a PA system. I stepped over a few toy rats that wheeled around and walked with a puffed chest across to the next area. I reached for the doorknob and my heart sank to my knees. I did not want to open that door. A feeling of dread hit me so hard I could barely even think. Logic overtook me after a few terrified moments, and I shook it off and entered the next room. Room 3 is when things began to change. On the surface, it looked like a normal room. There was a chair in the middle of the wood-paneled floor. A single lamp in the corner did a poor job of lighting the area, casting a few shadows across the floor and walls. That was the problem. Shadows. Plural. With the exception of the chairs, there were others. I had barely walked in the door, and I was already terrified. It was at that moment that I knew something wasn't right. I didn't even think as I automatically tried to open the door I came through. It was locked from the other side. That set me off. Was someone locking the doors as I progressed? There was no way. I would have heard them. Was it a mechanical lock that set automatically? Maybe. But I was too scared to really think. I turned back to the room, and the shadows were gone. The chair's shadow remained, but the others were gone. I slowly began to walk. I used to hallucinate when I was a kid, so I wrote off the shadows as a figment of my imagination. I began to feel better as I made it to the halfway point of the room. I looked down as I took my steps, and that's when I saw it. Or I didn't see it. My shadow wasn't there. I didn't have time to scream. I ran as fast as I could to the other door and flung myself without thinking into the room beyond. The fourth room was possibly the most disturbing. As I closed the door, all light seemed to be sucked out and put back into the previous room. I stood there, surrounded by darkness, not able to move. I'm not afraid of the dark and never have been. But I was absolutely terrified. All sight had left me. I held my hand in front of my face, and if I didn't know what I was doing, I would never have been able to tell. Darkness doesn't describe it. I couldn't hear anything. It was dead silence. When you're in a soundproof room, you can still hear yourself breathing. You can hear yourself being alive. I couldn't. I began to stumble forward after a few moments, my rapidly beating heart the only thing I could feel. There was no door in sight. I wasn't even sure there was one this time. The silence was then broken by a low hum. I felt something behind me. I spun around wildly, but could barely even see my nose. I knew it was there, though. Regardless of how dark it was, I knew something was there. The hum grew louder, closer. It seemed to surround me, but I knew whatever was causing the noise was in front of me, inching closer. I took a step back. I had never felt that kind of fear. I can't really describe true fear. I wasn't even scared I was going to die. I was scared of what the alternative was. I was afraid of what this thing had in store for me. Then the lights flashed for a second, and I saw it. Nothing. I saw nothing, and I know I saw nothing there. The room was again plunged into darkness, and the hum became a wild screech. I screamed in protest. I couldn't hear this goddamn sound for another minute. I ran backwards, away from the noise, and fumbled for the door handle. I turned and fell into room 5. You having fun, Beans? I hope it's not too scary for you. I don't want any of y'all to have nightmares. Let's take a quick drink so I can rehydrate. You all make sure you're drinking some water as well. And then we'll get... Oh no, it's very fun, Beans. I love the overreactions. That's really part of the fun with horror. It's in letting yourself get scared. I think a lot of the people who don't like horror, I think they are afraid of being afraid. But once you kind of embrace the fear, once you realize that, like, you know, if you jump and scream, things are still going to be fine afterwards. I think that's when horror becomes a lot more fun. You got a new water bottle? That's awesome, Beans. I hope you like it. All right, let's see. Okay, here we are. Before I describe room 5, you have to understand something. I am not a drug addict. I have no history of drug abuse or any sort of psychosis short of childhood hallucinations. The childhood hallucinations I mentioned earlier. And those were only when I was really tired or just waking up. I entered the NoEnd House with a clear head. After falling in from the previous room. Ooh, yeah, Sophia, we could totally read The Raven sometime. That'd be a good one to read. You might have to remind me, though, later. We can maybe read it after this. After falling in from the previous room, my view of room 5 was from my back, looking up at the ceiling. What I saw didn't scare me, it simply surprised me. Trees had grown into the room and towered above my head. The ceilings in this room were taller than the others, which made me think I was in the center of the house. I got up off the floor, dusted myself off, and took a look around. It was definitely the biggest room of them all. I couldn't even see the door from where I was. Various brush and trees must have blocked my line of sight with the exit. Up to this point, I figured the rooms were going to get scarier, but this was a paradise compared to the last room. I also assumed whatever was in room 4 stayed back there. I was incredibly wrong. As I made my way deeper into the room, I began to hear what one would hear if they were in a forest. Chirping bugs and the occasional flap of birds seemed to be my only company. Oh, good night, Sophia. I hope you have a good sleep. That was the thing that bothered me the most. I heard the bugs and other animals, but I didn't see any of them. I began to wonder how big this house was. From the outside, when I first walked up to it, it looked like a regular house. It was definitely on the bigger side, but there was almost an entire forest in here. The canopy covered my view of the ceiling, but I assumed it was still there, however high it was. I couldn't see any walls either. The only way I knew I was still inside was that the floor matched the other rooms, with standard dark wood paneling. I kept walking, hoping that the next tree I passed would reveal the door. After a few moments of walking, I felt a mosquito fly onto my arm. I shook it off and kept going. A second later, I felt about 10 more land all over my skin. I felt them crawl up and down my arms and legs, and a few made their way across my face. I flailed wildly to get them all off, but they just kept crawling. I looked down and let out a muffled scream, more of a whimper, to be honest. I didn't see a single bug. Not one bug was on me, but I could feel them crawl. I heard them fly by my face and sting my skin, but I couldn't see a single one. I dropped to the ground and began to roll wildly. I was desperate. I hated bugs, especially ones I couldn't see or touch. But these bugs could touch me, and they were everywhere. I began to crawl. I had no idea where I was going. The entrance was nowhere in sight, and I still hadn't even seen the exit. So I just crawled, my skin wriggling with the presence of those phantom bugs. After what seemed like hours, I found the door. I grabbed the nearest tree and propped myself up, mindlessly slapping my arms and legs to no avail. I tried to run, but I couldn't. My body was exhausted from crawling and dealing with whatever it was that was on me. I took a few shaky steps to the door, grabbing each tree on the way for support. It was only a few feet away when I heard it, the low hum from before. It was coming from the next room, and it was deeper. I could almost feel it inside my body, like when you stand next to an amp at a concert. The feelings of the bugs on me lessened as the hum grew louder. As I placed my hand on the doorknob, the bugs were completely gone. But I couldn't bring myself to turn the knob. I knew that if I let go, the bugs would return, and there was no way I would make it back to room 4. I just stood there, my head pressed against the door marked 6, and my hand shakily grasping the knob. The hum was so loud, I couldn't even hear myself pretend to think. There was nothing I could do but move on. Room 6 was next, and room 6 was hell. I closed the door behind me, my eyes held shut and my ears ringing. The hum was surrounding me. As the door clicked into place, the hum was gone. I opened my eyes in surprise, and the door I had shut was gone. It was just a wall now. I looked around in shock. The room was identical to room 3. The same chair and lamp, but with the correct amount of shadows this time. The only real difference was that there was no exit door, and the one I came in through was gone. As I said before, I had no previous issues in terms of mental instability, but at that moment, I fell into what I now know was insanity. I didn't scream. I didn't make a sound. At first, I scratched softly. The wall was tough, but I knew the door was there somewhere. I just knew it was. I scratched at where the doorknob was. I clawed at the wall frantically with both hands, my nails being filed down to the skin against the wood. I fell silently to my knees, the only sound in the room the incessant scratching against the wall. I knew it was there. I knew the door was there. I knew it was just there. I knew if I could just get past this wall. Are you all right? I jumped off the ground and spun in one motion. I leaned against the wall behind me and I saw what it was that spoke to me. To this day, I regret ever turning around. There was a little girl. She was wearing a soft white dress that went down to her ankles. She had long blonde hair to the middle of her back and white skin and blue eyes. She was the most frightening thing I had ever seen, and I know that nothing in my life will ever be as unnerving as what I saw in her. While looking at her, I saw something else. Where she stood, I saw what looked like a man's body, only larger than normal and covered in hair. He was naked from head to toe, but his head was not human and his toes were hooves. It wasn't the devil, but at that moment it might as well have been. The form had the head of a ram and the snout of a wolf. It was horrifying, and it was synonymous with the little girl in front of me. They were the same form. I can't really describe it, but I saw them at the same time. They shared the same spot in that room, but it was like looking at two separate dimensions. When I saw the girl, I saw the form, and when I saw the form, I saw the girl. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even move. Sorry. I couldn't speak. I could barely even see. My mind was revolting against what it was attempting to process. I had been scared before in my life, and I had never been more scared than when I was trapped in the fourth room. But that was before room 6. I just stood there, staring at whatever it was that spoke to me. There was no exit. I was trapped here with it, and then it spoke again. David, you should have listened. When it spoke, I heard the words of the little girl, but the other form spoke through my mind in a voice I won't attempt to describe. There was no other sound. The voice just kept repeating that sentence over and over in my mind, and I agreed. I didn't know what to do. I was slipping into madness, yet couldn't take my eyes off what was in front of me. I dropped to the floor. I thought I had passed out, but the room wouldn't let me. I just wanted it to end. I was on my side, my eyes wide open, and the form staring down at me. Scurrying across the floor in front of me was one of the battery-powered rats from the second room. The house was toying with me. For some reason, seeing that rat pulled my mind back from whatever depths it was headed. I looked around the room. I was getting out of there. I was determined to escape the house and live and never think about this place again. I knew this room was hell, and I wasn't ready to take up a residency. At first, it was just my eyes that moved. I searched the walls for any kind of opening. The room wasn't that big, so it didn't take long to soak up the entire layout. The demon still taunted me, the voice growing louder as the form stayed rooted to where it stood. I placed my hand on the floor, lifted myself on all fours so I can scan the wall behind. And turned to scan the wall behind me. Yeah, Derpy, $500. What do you think? Is it worth all this? Then I saw something I couldn't believe. Oh. All right, and on that cliffhanger, we've got a hydrate and a stretch. All right, let's do the hydrate first. I was actually just thinking that I should probably drink some water. All right, now for some stretching, and you all get up and stretch as well if you need to. Oh my goodness. Ooh. I hear my bones cracking. I'm getting too old. It's hard to do some of these stretches while in VR. Oh, and you guys get to see the legs stretch this time. I hope you guys are enjoying the stories so far. It's been a long time since I read NoEnd House. It's definitely a classic though, so I'm glad we're reading it. Oh, posture check. Thank you, Beans. Let's do it. Oh, gotta tighten this a little bit. My tracker's a little loose. There we go. Don't ignore our pleas for your help. Oh my gosh. No, I would never. I always listen to you guys, even when it makes me have to take a bathroom break, which is becoming more often recently. Ooh, you cracked your back, Beans. Oh my God. Sounding a bit dry. Thank you, Derpy. Got everything back in order. Oh, and your hips. I love it when my hips crack. It always feels so good. You actually got a bit scared. That's why you switched back to your home. Like, oh, I didn't even notice that. Oh my gosh. It's okay, Beans. I'll make sure I protect you. I am the Astral Cricket, and as you know, I can be there in a jiffy with my astral projection to make sure you're okay. Oh, what did I open up? We don't want to open up Media Player. Alright, where were we? There we are. Then I saw something I couldn't believe. The form was now right at my back, whispering into my mind about how I shouldn't have come. I felt its breath on the back of my neck, but I refused to turn around. A large rectangle was scratched into the wood, with a small dent chipped away in the center of it. Right in front of my eyes, I saw the large 7 I had mindlessly etched into the wall. I knew what it was. Room 7 was just beyond that wall where room 5 was moments ago. I don't know how I had done it. Maybe it was just my state of mind at the time, but I had created the door. I knew I had. In my madness, I had scratched into the wall what I needed the most, an exit to the next room. Room 7 was close. I knew the demon was right behind me, but for some reason, it couldn't touch me. I closed my eyes and placed both hands on the large 7 in front of me. I pushed as hard as I could. The demon was now screaming in my ear. It told me I was never leaving. It told me that this was the end. But I wasn't going to die. I was going to live there in room 6 with it. I wasn't. I pushed and screamed at the top of my lungs. I knew I was going to push through the wall eventually. I clenched my eyes shut and screamed, and the demon was gone. I was left in silence. I turned around slowly and was greeted by the room as it was when I entered. Just a chair and a lamp. But I couldn't believe it, but I didn't have time to waste. I turned back to the 7 and jumped back slightly. What I saw was a door. It wasn't the one I had scratched in, but a regular door with a large 7 on it. My whole body was shaking. It took me a while to turn the knob. I just stood there for a while, staring at the door. I couldn't stay in room 6. I couldn't. But if this was only room 6, I couldn't imagine what 7 had in store. I must have stood there for an hour, just staring at the 7. Finally, with a deep breath, I twisted the knob and opened the door to room 7. I stumbled through the door, mentally exhausted and physically weak. The door behind me closed and I realized where I was. I was outside. Not outside like room 5, but actually outside. My eyes stung. I wanted to cry. I fell to my knees and tried, but I couldn't. I was finally out of that hell. I didn't even care about the prize that was promised. I turned and saw that the door I just went through was the entrance. I walked to my car and drove home, thinking how nice a shower sounded. As I pulled up to my house, I felt uneasy. The joy of leaving NoEnd House had faded, and dread was slowly building in my stomach. I shook it off as residual from the house and made my way to the front door. I entered and immediately went up to my room. There, on my bed, was my cat, Baskerville. He was the first living thing I had seen all night, and I reached to pet him. He hissed and swiped at my hand. I recoiled in shock, as he had never acted like that. I thought, whatever, he's just an old cat. I jumped in the shower and got ready for what I was expecting to be a sleepless night. After my shower, I went to the kitchen to make something to eat. I descended the stairs and turned into the family room. What I saw would forever be burned into my mind, however. My parents were lying on the ground, naked and covered in blood. They had been mutilated to near unidentifiable states. Their limbs had been removed and placed next to their bodies, and their heads sat on their chests, facing me. The most unsettling part was their expressions. They were smiling as though they were happy to see me. I vomited and sobbed there in the family room. I didn't know what had happened. They didn't even live with me at the time. I was a mess. Then I saw it. A door that was never there before. A door with a large 8 scrawled on it in blood. Better be bragging, Nate, slipping y'all into work right now. Aww. Well, I'm glad you're blessing us with a little bit of work today, Nate. It's good to see you here. I hope you've been having a good day aside from having to work. I was still in the house. I was standing in my family room, but I was in room 7. The faces of my parents smiled wider as I realized this. They weren't my parents. They couldn't be. But they looked exactly like them. The door marked 8 was across the room, behind the mutilated bodies in front of me. I knew that I had to move on, but at that moment I gave up. The smiling faces tore into my mind. They grounded me where I stood. I vomited again and nearly collapsed. Then the hum returned. It was louder than ever, and it filled the house and shook the walls. The hum compelled me forward. I began to move slowly, making my way closer and closer to the door and the bodies. I could barely stand, let alone walk. And the closer I got to my parents, the closer I came to suicide. The walls were now shaking so hard it seemed as though they were going to crumble. But still the faces smiled at me. As I inched closer, their eyes followed me. I was now between the 2 bodies, a few feet away from the door. The dismembered hands clawed their way across the carpet toward me, all while the faces continued to stare. New terror washed over me, and I walked faster. I didn't want to hear them speak. I didn't want the voices to match those of my parents. They began to open their mouths, and the hands were inches from my feet. In a dash of desperation, I lunged toward the door, threw it open, and slammed it behind me. Roommate. I was done. after what I had just experienced. I knew there wasn't anything else this fucking house could throw at me that I couldn't live through. There was nothing short of the fires of hell that I wasn't ready for. Unfortunately, I underestimated the abilities of NoEnd House. Unfortunately, things got more disturbing, more terrifying, and more unspeakable in room 8. I still have trouble believing what I saw in room 8. Again, the room was a carbon copy of rooms 3 and 6, but sitting in the usually empty chair was a man. Yeah, Derpy, if you can do that, that would be great. I need to figure out how to get one that won't expire in the About section. But thank you for doing that. I still have... Oh, we read that part. After a few seconds of disbelief, my mind finally accepted the fact that the man sitting in the chair was me. Not someone who looked like me. It was David Williams. I walked closer. I had to get a better look. Even though I was sure of it, he looked up at me, and I noticed tears in his eyes. Please don't do it. Please don't hurt me. What? I asked. Who are you? I'm not going to hurt you. Yes, you are. He was sobbing now. You're going to hurt me, and I don't want you to. He sat in the chair with his legs up and began rocking back and forth. It was actually pretty pathetic looking, especially since he was me, identical in every way. Listen, who are you? I was now only a few feet away from my doppelganger. It was the weirdest experience yet, standing there talking to myself. I wasn't scared, but I would be soon. Why are you... You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. If you want to leave, you're going to hurt me. Why are you saying this? Just calm down, all right? Let's try and figure this. And then I saw it. The David sitting down was wearing the same clothes as me, except for a small red patch on his shirt, embroidered with the number 9. You're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. Don't, please. You're going to hurt me. My eyes didn't leave that small number on his chest. I knew exactly what it was. The first few doors were plain and simple, but after a while they got a little more ambiguous. 7 was scratched into the wall, but by my own hands. 8 was marked in blood above the bodies of my parents. But 9, this number was on a person, a living person. Worse still, it was on a person that looked exactly like me. David, I had to ask. Yes, you're going to hurt me. You're going to hurt me. He continued to sob and rock. He answered to David. He was me right down to the voice. But that 9. I paced around for a few minutes while he sobbed in the chair. The room had no door, and similarly to room 6, the door I came through was gone. For some reason, I assumed that scratching would get me nowhere this time. I studied the walls and floor around the chair, sticking my hand underneath and seeing if anything was below. Unfortunately, there was. Below the chair was a knife. Attached was a tag that read, "To David from management." The feeling in my stomach as I read that tag was something sinister. I felt like throwing up. The last thing I wanted to do was remove that knife from under the chair. The other David was still sobbing uncontrollably. My mind was spinning into an attic of unanswerable questions. Who put this here, and how did they get my name? Not to mention the fact that as I knelt on the cold wood floor, I also sat in that chair, sobbing in protest of being hurt by myself. It was all too much to process. The house and the management had been playing with me this whole time. My thoughts, for some reason, turned to Peter and whether or not he had gotten this far. If he did, he met a Peter Terry, sobbing in this very chair, rocking back and forth. I shook those thoughts out of my head, but they didn't matter. I took the knife from under the chair, and immediately the other David went quiet. "David," he said in my voice, "what do you think you're going to do?" I lifted myself from the ground and clenched the knife in my hand. "I'm going to get out of here." David was still sitting in the chair, though he was very calm now. He looked up at me with a slight grin. I couldn't tell if he was going to laugh or strangle me. Slowly, he got up from the chair and stood facing me. It was uncanny. His height and even the way he stood matched mine. I felt the rubber hilt of the knife in my hand and gripped it tighter. I don't know what I was planning on doing with it, but I had a feeling I was going to need it. Now, his voice was slightly deeper than my own. "I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to keep you here." I didn't respond. I just lunged and tackled him to the ground. I mounted him and looked down, knife poised and ready. He looked up at me, terrified. It was like I was looking in a mirror. Then the hum returned. Low and distant, though I still felt it deep in my body. David looked up at me as I looked down at myself. The hum was getting louder, and I felt something inside me snap. With one motion, I slammed the knife down into the patch on his chest and ripped down. Blackness fell on the room, and I was falling. The darkness around me was like nothing I had experienced up to this point. Room 4 was dark, but it didn't come closer to what was completely engulfing me. I wasn't even sure if I was falling after a while. I felt weightless, covered in dark. Then a deep sadness came over me. I felt lost, depressed, and suicidal. The sight of my parents entered my mind. I knew it wasn't real, but I had seen it. And the mind has trouble differentiating between what is real and what isn't. The sadness only deepened. I was in room 9 for what felt like days. The final room. And that's exactly what it was. The end. NoEnd House had an end, and I reached it. At that moment, I gave up. I knew I would be in that in-between state forever, accompanied by nothing but darkness. Not even the hum was there to keep me sane. I had lost all senses. I couldn't feel myself. I couldn't hear anything. Sight was completely useless here. I searched for a taste in my mouth and found nothing. I felt disembodied and completely lost. I knew where I was. This was hell. Room 9 was hell. Then it happened. Thank you, Derpy. A light. One of those stereotypical lights at the end of the tunnel. I felt ground come up from below me, and I was standing. After a moment or two of gathering my thoughts and senses, I slowly walked towards that light. As I approached the light, it took form. It was a vertical slit down the side of an unmarked door. I slowly walked through the door and found myself back where I started, the lobby of NoEnd House. It was exactly how I left it. Still empty, still decorated with childish Halloween decorations. After everything that had happened that night, I was still wary of where I was. After a few moments of normalcy, I looked around the place, trying to find anything different. On the desk was a plain white envelope with my name handwritten on it. Immensely curious, yet still cautious, I mustered up the courage to open the envelope. Inside was a letter, again, handwritten. And before I read it, I'm gonna take another drink of water. So you guys are just gonna have to wait a little while longer. I am sorry, I haven't been super attentive to chat today. Let's take a moment to take a little peek at chat, see if there's anything we need to tend to. I've kind of kept it in the corner of my eye, but I haven't been being super focused on it. It's fine. You like the stories, making them really. Oh, I'm glad. I like when I can really get into it. And the vibe I like to go for with the narrations is I like it to feel like I'm actually telling a story to you guys. We're sitting here and I'm just relaying something that happened. I think that makes it a lot more fun. But I'm glad you guys are okay with me being a little less attentive in favor of that. And I'm glad you're enjoying it, because that's what this is about. All right, let's read this letter. We're almost done. David Williams, congratulations, you have made it to the end of NoEnd House. Please accept this prize as a token of great achievement. Yours forever, Management. With the letter were 5 $100 bills. I couldn't stop laughing. I laughed for what seemed like hours. I laughed as I walked out to my car and laughed as I drove home. I laughed as I pulled into my driveway. I left as I opened my door to my house. And as I saw the small 10 etched into the wood. The end. I really like that ending. I forgot how good that one was. I really like that story. My gosh, that's actually a very good question, Derpy. Koo, is that a South African brand of beans? Because I don't think I've ever seen that one here. He just laughed. I mean, at that point, yeah, he's never getting out of there. It is actually NoEnd House. I do wonder, however, I wonder if, you know what, let's get you guys closer here for a second. I do wonder if Terry was actually out of the house or if he was still in the house too, but somehow was able to contact our narrator. Baked beans and tomato sauce. Oh, okay. So it's yeah. It's like kind of like the pork and beans, but without the pork part of it. Oh, it's the top brand in South Africa? That's pretty cool. It's in your Twitch. Oh, okay, like your little picture. I'll have to take a look at it. But let's find another story. How long have we? Oh, we've got about half an hour more. We can definitely get another story in. Let's see. It's amazing. We've been doing like really long stories lately, and now we're getting at least 3 stories in. We're on a roll. Ooh, what's this one? It's called Out in the Woods. Might be a little long, but I think it'll do all right. Yeah, let's go with this. All right. So this one actually has a little bit of a preface ahead of it. So it says, what you are about to read was posted on 4chan's Paranormal X board on Halloween Day of 2013. Let's I want to pull you guys down here for a moment so I can read while I give you a little bit of attention. More stories, Miss Astral. I suppose you've been good beans, so I can give you another story. Oh my gosh, I just freaked myself out. So I have a couple of screens up here, and I saw the arm of one of the chairs in the world between them, but it looked like a face for a second, and it just made my stomach turn. Okay. So it was posted on the X board on Halloween Day of 2013 by an unknown user by the name of Prozac 101. Being a daily visitor to X, I was one of the first people to reply to the girl's post, and I think it's best that I tell you now that I was pretty creeped out by what I had read. Probably the most I had been in a long time. It's kind of hard for me to explain the strange feelings I got, but there was something quite different about her story, due to the fact that I couldn't stop thinking about it for days after it had first been posted on the board. Just to make everything clear, I am not entirely the original author of this piece. just merely an anonymous editor that felt it was his duty to share Prozac 101's story even further with the world. So I'm not sure if that's actually part of the story or if that's an actual, note. Ooh, time to stretch. Okay. Let's do some stretching. Ooh, that feels good. Thank you, Nate. At least I think it was Nate who redeemed this one. I'll double check when I sit back down. But you all, make sure you're getting up as well and doing a little bit of stretching. Oh my gosh. Balance is hard. Oh no. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a good enough stretch. All right. Let's get this story underway. Kind of looks like my model is angry, does it? Well, take heart because I am totally not angry with any of you. All right. Okay, just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything I needed to tend to in chat. Let's begin the story. This story is called Out in the Woods, posted by someone under the name of Prozac 101. And here's the story. Hey X, just thought that I'd share a couple spooky stories from my childhood to get everyone all hyped for Halloween. When I was a child, it was just me and my mother. We lived in a property owned by my grandma, a 3-story old farmhouse right at the fringe of the woods. It was far off the road, down a long, unlit gravel driveway. It felt very isolated at night, being so distant from any other houses, set in an area that hadn't been inhabited for 30 years before we started living in it. Quite often, I was a fairly rambunctious child, so while my mom went off to work, I would occasionally skip the morning bus to school and stay home all day. The big house had a habit of feeling incredibly lonely and sparse, so I spent most of my time playing in the forest expanse out back. Some distance into the woods, far enough that I could hear my mother when she called, there was a toppled pine tree, which had crashed into another and even larger trunk on its way down, was now frozen there, forming a long arc over the forest floor. I loved to climb up the jagged stump at the base of the tree and then steady myself to a point just above the middle. I was never able to make it all the way to the top because it just got too steep for me to continue any further, and I had a bad habit of freaking out from how high up I was. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you guys wouldn't want to see me angry, so don't you ever disappoint me. I don't want to have to give you a talking to. One day, I was sitting in my usual spot on the fallen tree, which was a good distance from the ground, just listening to the birds singing and simultaneously feeling the warmth of the sun on my neck, when I heard something strange from underneath that paralyzed me in shock. Hey, kid. I was gripped by a sudden surge of fear for a moment. The voice had come from directly underneath me. I strained to look down, but couldn't see anything over the ledge. For a long time, I just sat there in absolute silence. And it was at the point where I was almost soon to convince myself that I had imagined hearing a man's voice at all. I know you can hear me. His voice was much louder this time, as I yelled something out and scrambled up the log a bit higher. And trembling nervously, I dug my fingernails into the bark and held tight for dear life. I sat there trying to collect my nerves for God knows how long. Although I couldn't see it, the presence of the thing underneath me was still clear. The bird song was much softer and more cautious this time, and when I listened closely, I swear I could hear the faintest echo of human breathing. Gathering up all my courage, I vowed to prove to myself that it was all my imagination by leaning over the ledge as far as I possibly could without slipping right off. Digging hard into the bark behind me, I stretched out along my arms and peered over, getting a full view of the empty forest floor and undergrowth when suddenly, "Come down here or I'll come up and grab you." It was so loud. It was as if it was being screamed right in my face. I released my grip on the tree in fright and plunged off the platform. I was saved only by grabbing a nearby branch, and for one awful second, my bare legs dangled in the cool air. When I pulled myself up, I ran at full speed to the top of the collapsed pine, to the point I had never reached before. I sat there, just below the rustling canopy, pissing myself and staring at the distant base where the splintered wood rose, fully expecting at any moment to see someone crawling rapidly up the pine towards me. Instead, all I heard was the wind whistling in the leaves above and below me, and occasional snippets of birdsong. It was about 2 hours before my mother got home and found me. After much worried searching, trembling, and crying at the top of the fallen tree. Although this incident spooked both me and my mother, in time I somehow recovered, exhibiting that naive hard skin of a child, although I never went as far into the forest as I used to, and never again even approached that fallen tree. Once, when I was 12, I had the chore of taking firewood from the shed out back, just at the edge of the woods, and to bring it back inside the house. It was a tiresome job, and I always chose to do it at dusk when the air was brimming with mosquitoes and a swampy fog that usually coated the lawn. By the time I had made my last round, I would sprint back to the house, spooked. One of my least favorite things about this job was that the shed was full of barn owls. If you've ever seen a barn owl's face staring at you from a dark roof corner, oh, thank you for following, Sir Knight Natsu. I'm glad to see you here. I hope you're enjoying the stories and the stream, and I hope you're having a wonderful day as well. No, I lost my spot. I didn't want to miss the follow, and now I lost my spot. Oh, here we are. If you have ever seen a barn owl's face staring at you from a dark roof corner, then you will know how uncomfortable that shed made me. One of these nights, it got mistier than it had ever been before. The thick silver fog covered everything and limited my line of sight to a short sphere around me. Even though the shed wasn't far from the house, I found myself feeling disoriented. And more than once, I walked in the wrong direction, both times for some reason walking straight into the woods. By the time I had reached my last load, It was too foggy to see the street. My eyes stung in the moisture, and it made my vision blur. Lurching forward, I managed to walk headfirst into a tree. Doubling over and dropping all the wood I was bundling onto my feet with a hard crunch. As I went to pick them up, with my foot throbbing pretty hard, I realized that the ground was too misty for me to see my own knees. I decided to head to the house, since we had more than enough wood for one night. However, it was getting to be pretty dark, and I couldn't make out any signifiers of which direction I was headed in. Even though I cautiously walked for several feet in all directions, trying to figure out my position in the mists, I still couldn't figure out any point of identification. I couldn't even locate the fence or the gate. The more I walked, the more I seemed to stumble into trees, pine needles, and mud crunching under my feet instead of dew-covered lawn. After a while, I finally realized that I couldn't even find the shed anymore, cursing myself for being so dumb, while trying to ignore my thumping heart and sense that something else was at play. I became aware that I was lost somewhere in the fringe of the forest. Screaming out for my mother at the loudest possible volume was only met with a resounding silence from the depths of the mist all around from where I stood, affirming that I had wandered too far from the house to be heard. As a deep panic started to settle on me, I noticed a glimpse of something pink moving against a nearby pine trunk. Coming closer, I saw it was a ripped-out square of pink paper. On it, there was an arrow pointing left. Looks vaguely like something my mom might make, I rationalized, to keep me from getting lost. So, foolishly, I followed the direction set by that green arrow, shivering in the increasing cold. Quick water break real quick. Lurkers, most likely. Y'all make sure you stay hydrated too. Oh, what did you say, Beans? With lurkers, most likely. No, I've missed so many chats. Okay, we'll just continue. All right. I kept walking about for 5 to 10 minutes before needing to stop and take a breath. My heart was pounding so fast it was beginning to hurt. As I was sitting down, however, I spied what appeared to be another note fluttering on a nearby trunk. I noticed that this one was embedded with a long nail. It bore another arrow, this one pointing up, and a small, sloppily written note that said, "This way." Despite my increasing panic, I convinced myself that these notes were my only shot of getting back before nightfall. I was desperate to get the hell out, and my brow was cold with sweat. So I followed the green arrow to a point where I could just dimly make out another spot of pink, up an incline of collapsed stumps and leaf litter. At this point, it was getting pretty dark, and I had to strain both my eyes just to see a few meters ahead of me. Following the green arrows, feeling less and less sure of where I was, I stumbled through the woods, groping out in the mist to feel for trees. Although I was terrified of something unseen grabbing my arm. I came across the third green note, which had another arrow pointing up again. This one led to an increasingly steep slope that I didn't recognize being anywhere near my house, and with a poorly drawn smiley face right above it. At this stage, I became too freaked to cope and started to cry there a little, as I slumped against the pine stump, and the possibility that I would be out in these woods all night was beginning to sink in, like a syringe being driven into the veins within my arm. I caught a glimpse of another pink square in the distance. Squinting hard, unnerved by these notes, all of which looked fresh and without a sign of decay despite the previous week's non-stop rain. I read it from afar. What I read made my blood turn cold. I stood to my knees dead silently, wobbling on them in fear. My ears were sensitive to any tiny prickle of noise in the mist. For a long time, I stood there in the rolling fog, reading and rereading that horrible note over and over again before a snapping stick somewhere behind me caused me to sprint blindly, twigs snagging my ankles and cutting up my face as I ran. Written on the note, in big green letters, was my name. It felt like I was running for hours. All the while, the rain and mist lapped at the back of my neck like the decaying breath of someone running right behind me. Somehow, I made it back to the house. All the lights were off, and I struggled to find the keys for a moment. When I found them, I bolted indoors and quickly crawled into bed, where I remained unsleeping till morning. Mom just thought I'd come inside and gone to bed, and hadn't thought to leave the lights on. It was a miracle, aka some freakish coincidence, that I even found the house at all. The final incident at that damn house was witnessed only by my mother. Up until then, she had never experienced any of the strange things as I had, although we mutually shared the peculiar oppressive quality that the house's interior had on us, and its placement in the dreary, imposing woods. Oh, thank you for joining, Kingly Wave. I hope you're enjoying the stories in the stream, and I hope you're having a wonderful evening or day, wherever it is for you. Thank you for following. Although I was obviously never a popular kid, by living way out in the country in the opposite direction from everyone else at my school, I did make some tight friends in my first year of high school. One of these friends, Amanda was her name, invited me over one night, and I accepted. My mother drove me out to the place, which was about 3 miles away, then drove back home. The night went well. We watched a horror movie, suitably, devoured some pizza, and probably smoked a little pot. My mother went home alone, where she intended to get some writing done. She worked for a magazine at that point. It was about midnight when I received an off-putting text from Mom in all caps. "Oh, Kingly, you're a little tired, but overall not too bad." "Oh, I'm sorry you're tired, but hopefully you'll get a good rest tonight. I'm doing pretty well too. I've been pretty tired lately myself, but I was actually quite awake today, so I'm in a pretty good mood. I've got tomorrow off as well, so things are looking good. And it's been a nice stream. We've been It's been some good stories today. I'm very happy about it. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that your day's not been too bad either. Okay, so text from mom in all caps. Is this a prank? I need to know immediately. Thinking it was some kind of joke, I texted back, calm yourself. Is what a prank? Almost immediately, the response, are you at the house? Of course, I responded, no, though I was thoroughly weirded out. I didn't receive another message until around 3 a.m. when she told me to go to my grandma's in the morning and to not by any means dare go home. I remember those bleak torrents of rain the day I went to my grandmother's, and how terribly soaked I was when I finally got there. It was nearly 2 towns away. I'd had to fight the temptation to go home and drop off my bags, but my mom's disturbing messages from last night were enough of a warning not to do so. When I arrived, Mom and Grandma were having lunch. At first, my mother seemed to be in some sort of a composed state, but when I got a better look at her, I noticed that all the color had drained from her face, and she was slightly trembling. At one point, she even sent a small glass crashing to the floor after flinching at the cat brushing around her ankles. It wasn't until later that night, when my grandma was sound asleep, that she told me what had happened. She went further as to forbid me from telling old grandma, out of fear that it would horrify her superstitious soul too much. This is what happened the night when I was at Amanda's, as she described in lurid detail. My mother was sitting on the first story in the living room, where she sat on the couch by the fire, curtains open to the view of the sunset on the canopy, going over her latest draft. At first it was so faint that she barely noticed it, but after a while, my mother became aware of and vaguely irritated by tiny thumping noises near her head. At the window. When she went over to investigate, she saw fat brown moths, of a kind we often get at that place, buzzing madly into the glass. Reasoning that this was the cause of the sound, she returned to her work. However, feeling rattled in some way. It was when the noises started to get sharper and louder that she paid more attention and saw that rocks were being thrown at the window from the total blackness of the forest edge. She saw them appear from the shadows of the bush, and then fall in an arc and bounce off the window. Looking carefully, she could see small cracks from where some heavy ones had hit. Right beside where her head had been moments before. Temporarily captivated, she tried to peer into the darkness enough to make out where the rocks were being thrown from. Then, with a startled shock, she jumped back from the window as she saw me standing half behind a tree right near the window, grinning wide and staring at her. My one visible eye stretched wide open, showing all the white. She barely stifled a scream, seeing her own daughter standing there, just staring and smiling. Not only did the figure not move or blink, it was standing by one of the nearest pines, far from where the rocks were shooting up out of the bush. As they continued to do so in a loud downpour, my face unceasingly continued to press out at her, smiling. Thinking this was all some kind of sick prank, hence the later text. My mother shouted my name at the top of my lungs, frightened to the core. However, instead of responding, the mouth of that thing that looked like me behind the tree just started moving, as if it were mouthing silent words really, really fast. Suddenly, it turned its head to the side and seemed to be talking to someone else behind the tree, my mom said, who couldn't be seen. But she could see a formless black shape hanging against the other side of the tree. The girl that looked like me kept staring at my mother and doing the silent speed talking thing, then turning and whispering to the thing next to her. Then she would turn back and start up again. Then, breaking the monotonous spell, she suddenly pointed straight at my mother and started laughing. My mother screamed and fled to my bedroom on the second story, the only room with a working lock, where she shut herself in and sat at the far end of the bed as the rocks began to pitter-patter against the window downstairs, dry heaving and weeping in fear. In my room, my mother said she did not feel safe. There was an awful smell and a weird humming noise in the walls, as she described. She tried to pray for a time before giving up and just listening to the rocks pelt the walls and the windows. Somewhere in the kitchen, she caught the distinct, vibrant sound of a window actually smashing, and the weird, continuous humming. Listening more carefully, she could identify it as the softest hint of a mumbling voice. In absolute horror, she recognized the voice, and then, virtually too afraid to look, she tilted her head up to the closet door, where an awful white face could be seen staring right at her, mouth contorting and gaping in what sounded like highly sped-up whispering. The closet door was only a meter from my mother. It started to open slowly. In an unimaginable explosion of terror, she immediately bolted to the door, only to fumble with the lock as bigger and bigger rocks came smashing through the window, which burst apart in a spray of glass shards, before finally getting out, running out of the house, completely keeping her eyes off the woods, getting into her car and driving off. She said that as she glanced back, right at the end of the prolonged drive, she saw two unmistakable human forms standing at my broken bedroom window, watching as her car got further and further away from our house. This would be their final farewell, as my mother never stepped foot in that place again, and as my mother told this story, she broke down into tears. I didn't doubt her, and I still don't. I honestly and fully believe that she experienced what she says she did. It was also quite clear that we were done living in that house for once and for all. Hello, Taha. It's good to see you. I hope you're having a good day. My day is pretty good. It's been some good stories. Oh, no, madam is fine, if that's what you want to call me anyway. If you're asking for pronouns, then yeah, she, her. But I hope you're enjoying this story. And I hope you're having a good day as well. Where was I? Lost my spot. Oh, there we are. I only went back. Oh, all right. We'll redeem a hydrate before we start back up again. Thank you, Derpy. Gotta stay hydrated. Story. Oh, it's still going, Beans. We're not done yet. We're not out of the woods. Taha. Is that a greeting? I'm not familiar with that phrase. You're good, but oh no, you broke your phone. Darn, that's too bad. I'm sorry. I hope you've got the money to replace it, or at least I hope it didn't break too bad. You just had some dates? Oh, nice. I hope some of them went well. I hope you made a connection with at least, one of them. Oh, you're getting your cat. Oh, because you're afraid, Beans. Yeah, always good to cuddle a cat when you get afraid. It's an Arabic phrase. It means all praise to God. Oh, so is it used like a greeting, or what sort of context? Oh, okay. That makes sense. The fruit dates. I don't know if I've probably had some dates. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just curious about stuff like that. Oh, hello, Shadowroosh. It's good to see you. I hope you're enjoying this story. Oh, your friend used to use it, Beans? Nice. Alright, where was I? There we are. I only went back once. With my dad, who I see very rarely now. He came from another state to help us move. Mom had already found a place in town and moved in. My dad and I just loaded up his truck with all that was left inside there. It was a silent, sunny morning when we removed all the stuff and emptied the place. I wish I could say there was some closure, some final spooking to cap it all off, but there wasn't. It was just a relief to be out of there. There are, however, only two things left worth mentioning. One, when we checked the house for any sign of intruders, we found that several windows, including one in my bedroom and the kitchen, had been smashed and rocks were lying on the floor. And two, Dad went out into the trees for a bit to take a leak. When he came back, he asked how long we'd had the swing set for. Needless to say, we'd never had a swing set, so I was fairly unsettled to discover that in the week since we'd been gone, someone had assembled a rope swing set from one of the highest branches of the old pine over the ridge, against which was the fallen log I'd stopped climbing many years ago. It was obviously new rope, and a nicely polished, sanded down wooden seat at the base. Dad, wanting to keep my mind from recent events, he doubted the affair and thought my mother was mentally unstable, said that a neighbor probably set it up, not realizing it was on our property. Of course, he knew as well as I did that we had literally no neighbors for at least a mile in any direction. There were no houses in all that space, and never in my time living there did I ever see any other signs of human habitation. But I let it all go, and was pleased enough just to say good riddance to that horrible place as we drove off for good. For the most part, I've found it best to try and forget what happened at that place. Sometimes I just can't help but ponder it, though. It's been long enough now that I no longer feel scared about talking about it. But for a long while I couldn't. Seeing as it's Halloween, what better time to share? My grandma just recently sold the house to a new family, that being a young couple and their little son, shortly after we moved out, despite my mother's desperate insistence that it be left empty. Now she refuses to talk about what happened altogether. I'm less anxious about it. although sometimes I can't help but let my imagination get the better of me. All I can do is think of that old house, the fallen down tree, the new occupants, the swing out back, gently spinning in the breeze as that little boy toddles obliviously towards it. And that's how that story ends. Let me catch up on chat a little bit. Oh, you're getting a new phone tomorrow, Taha. That's good. I'm glad you're getting it replaced very quickly. It's hard these days going without a phone. We kind of need to use it for like everything anymore. Oh, Shadarush, you're doing good. That's good to hear. I'm glad. Oh no, going insane with some of the dishes, Nate. Just finished one pot of hardened cheese. Ooh, gross. Yeah, cheese is the worst to try and get off when it's left to solidify like that. Oh my gosh. Well, beans, we're done now, so you can finally relax. That was a good. I'm glad you liked it, Kingly. Yeah, we had some really good ones today. If we've had a few good ones over these Sundays. Sundays is usually, you know what? Y'all are very far, and we're done with the stories today. So let's bring you guys closer. There we are, much better. And you know what? I'm gonna stand up because, you know what? I've been sitting for way too long, and I need to stretch a little bit. Make sure y'all are getting, the blood flowing and all that stuff. We'll do a little bit of some visual stuff before we dip out for the day. But yeah, I'm glad you. Oh, my screen's running away. I'm glad you liked it, Kingly. We have some more VODs from past Sundays when we usually do these spooky story narrations, and they're saved on my YouTube channel if you ever want to, listen to some others. Some are definitely better than others, but I actually really liked last Sunday's. It was a story called Fleshgate, and that one was surprisingly good. I was very happy with it. If you stand up, you ain't gonna stay standing. Oh, I'm sorry I scared you, Beans. I don't need to give you any sort of reason to stay awake more than you already do. Yeah, certainly. No, of course, no pressure, Kingly. Like, enjoy this stream and all the content I provide however you want. You never need to feel pressured to, go watch anything, just if it interests you. Derpy, yeah, those were good stories today. Yeah. Oh no, Beans, your legs are jelly now? Don't worry. We'll get you toughened up with these spooky stories. You'll be a pro in no time. You'll be the bravest can of beans around. If you didn't want to get scared, you shouldn't have watched. It's fun to get scared though. I really enjoy it. That's why I play the horror games and stuff. I'm really excited to go back to our haunted house game that we started playing on Friday. 'Cause yeah, that gave me some really good scares. I need to try doing some different things. Like, I've got a marker I could use. I could do like some, ooh, actually that's kind of fun. But yeah, I don't know, I could do something like that. Could spell out some names. Although it's going to be backwards, I would have to write backwards. So let's see. I'm kind of close to it too. Let me make the size smaller. Let's see. Yeah, that might be a little better. Let's try that. Oh, thank you for posting that, Derpy. Kingly, you're too tired to stand up. Been out all day and just got back home. Oh, nice. I hope the therapy session went well, and I'm glad you're doing therapy. Like, it sucks, whatever led you to feel like you need to be there, but I'm in therapy as well, and it helps me a lot. I feel like everyone should make a point to stop by every now and then just to let things out and, talk about everything they need to. Um, but yeah, sit down and relax after a hard day of work. You deserve it. Still kind of large. Hey, I actually did it all right. I'll have to practice with that. That might be kind of fun. Can maybe have that as like do a name tracing redeem or something like that. Let's see. It's fine, you're good. That's good to hear, Kingly. Went very well. Yeah, exactly, Beans. You all are way stronger than you realize. You all have of a lot of strength and power within you. You just need to get the confidence to let it out. And that can be really hard sometimes. And oh no, tracking. Sometimes a lot of times actually probably you just need to fake it till you make it. That's what I did. I felt like I needed to be more social, because I didn't do anything, and I was scared. I was so nervous, but I started just talking to people, and I've met some really good friends doing that. So y'all can do it. If I can do it, you certainly can as well. And if you ever need someone in your corner, I'm there for you. Wait, Beans, you thought. Oh wait, I got really behind. Let me catch up. um Wait, so hot you can't. Oh, the the dishwater, Nate. It's so hot you can't feel your own hands. Yeah, when I'm washing dishes, like I don't do it the same way you are, I'm sure, but um, that hot water can definitely get to you. Beans, you thought you saw something? Oh no, what did you see, Beans? Kingly, you agree? You find it best sometimes to let all your stress out to someone you can trust and it helps. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I see my therapist once a month. I used to see her every week, but finances kind of got in the way of that. Um, but yeah, I see her once a month, and I always feel better afterwards. Like, my stressors and everything kind of pile up, and I've struggled with plenty of depression and anxiety over the years, and she's helped me get to a place where I manage them much better. Of course, not everyone needs to um, see a therapist all that often, but you know, it's always a good idea, especially with children. I think children should should have a yearly checkup with a therapist the same way they do with physical medical doctors, because there's so many things that can go unnoticed. Like, I waited so long to take care of my anxiety, but if I had been, going to an annual checkup as a kid, we might have been able to do something about that a lot earlier, and it wouldn't have sat with me for as long. been working for the ooh Nate been working for the last 5 hours on dishes. That's awful. Is there any chance of you getting switched out to do something else? Give your poor hands a break. Make sure you get some like good lotion or something on your hands tonight as well. Make sure they get soothed. You need to give them a break. Oh my gosh, Jemmy! Thank you for following. It's good to see you, Jemmy. Jemmy's actually a very good friend of mine. Aw, thank you, Jemmy. I hope you're having a good night, Jemmy. I'm getting close to getting off, but I wanted to spend a little time just hanging out and chatting since I wasn't very attentive to chat during the stories. Oh, it was just a shadow beans. Well, that's good, but that, like, when it makes your stomach turn like that, that can, oh, Maria, I just saw your invite request. You can join, but I won't be on for very much longer. We're kind of working up for the goodbyes. But you know how I get distracted by you all. I need to make sure you're doing okay. I need to check in with you all. Nate, you need to check in with yours. Haven't seen your therapist since May. Yeah, that's been a while. If I go longer than a month, I think I'll be in a bit of a rough state. Oh yeah, depression and anxiety are one of the few reasons why you started to get... Yeah, they'll get to you. Like, if you just let them, sit and stew inside your head, it just gets worse and worse until, like, you don't even see things the same way. That was something that kind of, it terrified me. As I got older, I would think back to when I was a little kid, and I would just be like, I just don't see things the same way. Like, colors used to seem brighter, and everything used to seem not as scary. And granted, a big part of that is just growing up in general. You start to see things differently, but you can still see those vibrant colors, and things don't have to seem as scary. You kind of need to teach yourself how to sometimes. Oh no, Beans, your hands are so dry. Put on some lotion, Beans. Especially after the shower, like, do a full, like, I always lotion up my hands, my arms, and my legs. It does wonders. I also have a face routine, but, just put on lotion after the shower. It works wonders. And just do it regularly. Oh, it's a PC world? I'm sorry, Maria. Like I said, though, we won't be on much longer anyway. Kind of just checking in with everyone. I'm glad you all enjoyed the stories and are doing well. Like how we just gloss over that you said you... Oh, Did I see that one, Beans? That's nice, buddy. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, the people I've interacted with, all of us are, a little wacko. Like, no one's got it all figured out. Everyone has their own issues, even if it seems like they've got it all figured out. You just need to look a little deeper, like, get to talk with someone for a little bit, and you find out that, they might have some of the same insecurities that you do, or they might have gone through a lot of work to get where they are now. You never know. You just gotta treat people with consideration and, get to know them a bit. Aw, Beans, cats are on your lap. They're protecting you. They won't let any of the shadows get you, Beans. Yeah, like Derpy said, give them some good pets. I know I keep saying it, but I really need to figure out some more things to do with my fingers so it doesn't get boring. That sounded maybe kind of bad. I shouldn't say stuff like that. Maria, easy fix for the colors. Look at a gray filter for a while, and then when you... I mean, I suppose that works, but it's maybe not getting to the root of the problem, Maria. I appreciate the thought, though. We need good ideas like that. Oh, Beans, you have an entire tub of lotion that you... Alright. Well, you need to upgrade from a tub of lotion, Beans. You need to upgrade to a bathtub. You need to bathe in the lotion. Gojira, thank you for joining. I'm glad to see you traveling the astral plane with us. I hope you've enjoyed the stream today. If you were here for the stories, I hope you enjoyed the stories. And I hope you're just having a really wonderful day. Kingly, yeah, glad I found you. Somebody, aww. I mean, I try to understand people, like, it's, I think most people can understand each other. We just need to... Oh my gosh, Jemmy, thank you. Oh, super proud of you for perusing stream. Continue to grow more every day and become more confident in yourself. You're one of the my best friends in this life, and I'm excited for the future adventures. Oh, Jemmy, that's so sweet. Thank you. Honestly, you've been one of my best friends as well. Like, our whole crew that we have, that circle of friends, is just, it's an amazing group. I'm really glad I met you all. But yeah, Kingly, also going back to that, like, I try to understand everyone. Like, it doesn't mean I necessarily will understand, but I'll at least try to listen and come from their perspective. And yeah, I'm glad you found me too. I'm glad you're getting some enjoyment out of this stream. Oh my gosh, what's happening? Oh my gosh, Derpy. Thank you. Thank you for gifting that sub. Although, wow, Nate, did yours didn't expire already, did it? Didn't you already have a sub? That reminds me, Derpy, it wasn't letting me gift you subs. Like, I was gonna get you some subs gifted for the emote work you've done, but it said that I wasn't able to. Beans, yes, Miss Astral. You'll start bathing in lotion. For legal reasons, don't take that advice. Maria, you're gonna be weird. You're always weird. What are you talking about? Oh, chat got paused. It's not moving. Beans, everything is happening. Oh, okay, Derpy. The sub needs to expire before I can gift. Okay, sounds good. Oh, Derpy did it. Yeah, I guess, Well, that's lame. The sub shouldn't have expired. Did all those initial sub bomb subs expire? They should have lasted until August 1st, because for legal reasons, bathing in lotion sounds gross. Fair enough, Beans. But yeah, I'll get you some subs gifted later, Derpy, because you have done so much work for the stream, and like even beyond the emotes, you really deserve them. If you gift within 1 week. Oh, okay. That makes sense, Derpy. This is why I need you. I don't know about things. Gosh, I don't wanna... You don't got money. You gotta start streaming, Maria. Start making that streamer money. We're basically all wealthy, don't you know? It's not like we live paycheck to paycheck or anything. It's not like we sell ourselves out for entertainment. No, seriously though, I enjoy doing all of this. I don't like any money I get. It goes straight back into the stream to make it better for all of you. You know what? I'm thinking I want to get some more ASMR focused streams. I've talked about that before, but I really love doing these and just like being cozy and talking with you all, letting y'all talk about, you know, the things that trouble you, getting a little bit of, I don't know, social ambience, I guess. Derpy could become a rapper. Little Maria sounds like a rapper name. It kinda does. Go for it, Maria. Start a rapping career. No PCs. Oh yeah, I forget you don't have a PC. Oh, Loanami. That's an interesting name. I kinda like it though. Thank you for joining. Happy to see you here. I hope you're enjoying this stream and having a good day. All of that. I hope you're just having a good time with life right now. Kingly Wave. Understandable. Seem like a very kind person, and I thank you for that. For me, it's kind of rare to find someone who understands people who are going through a rough time. Oh, I'm sorry, Kingly. I hope you can find more people like that. I think a lot of times, even though people can understand, I think they don't know how to help, or they're afraid to help. Like, I know in the past, when my anxiety and depression were more prevalent in my life, I would like perceive something and I would think, oh, this is probably something I should do. Oh, follower goal met, 70 out of 70. Nice. I don't know what that goal gets me, but Twitch said it, so it must be good. What was I saying? Sorry, for those of you who don't know, I have a single brain cell and I don't always have it on me. I forget what I was talking about a lot. Right, people who understand. But yeah, like, you know, I would think, oh, I should probably like say this, but my anxiety had me so worried about like the person thinking I was rude, or like, you know, that I didn't have the right to get involved in their life or something. And that lack of confidence can make it hard for people to actually help each other. Beans, is it normal to feel your eyeball throb? When's the last time you got some sleep, Beans? That might be it. Or maybe you've got some dry eyes. Some eye drops might help. Oh my gosh, your dog is going at you, Maria. It just wants to show you they love you. Yeah, no escape from doggy kisses. Oh no, not the astral glitch. I think I've gone pretty well this stream without getting astral glitched. Her breath smell. Why does her breath smell like avocados, Maria? How do you know that? Oh wait. Oh my gosh, Beans, you're just like me. My brain rot is spreading to the chat. But I think this is a good spot to end. We are pretty much exactly half an hour over schedule, but I'm glad we did it. We got a few new followers who maybe wouldn't have found us otherwise, and so we've got some friends, and you know what? That's pretty cool. But yeah, let's call it an evening, or maybe a morning if you're in a different part of the world. For me, it's an evening. I still need to go eat dinner. But yeah, I hope you all had a really good time tonight. I know I certainly did. I hope you enjoyed the stories. I hope you enjoyed this mediocre visual ASMR. I hope you enjoyed just hanging out. I'll try not to get hit by a bus. I'll avoid buses. Thank you, Maria. Good night, good day, good morning, whatever. I love you all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your days, however long it is. Eat some good food. Make sure you stay hydrated. Be good to each other. And I will see you hopefully tomorrow when we will be... I don't know what we're going to be streaming, actually. I kind of want to do another collab with Scarlett, but I haven't talked to her yet. Yeah, I would much rather be hit by a bicycle than a bus, Maria. But, yeah. At any rate, we'll be probably doing some VR chat tomorrow. So... I think that's it. For those of you who don't know, I am also very bad at goodbyes, so they tend to drag on a little bit. But goodbye. Love you all. Be good to each other. I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Bye.